Everybody? It's 6:30 and we will call the Planning Commission meeting to order. I will take roll. Justin, who was excused, I believe. Doug Dahlberg.
Here.
Frank.
I'm here.
Jeremy.
Here.
Myers. Here. Ray. He was excused. Keith.
Yes.
Jerry.
Yes.
Doug Stewart.
Yes,
He's-
not here.
He's excused. Okay. Motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, Frank and Keith. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? This evening, our agenda is comprises a single agenda item. I'm going to have Paul REUVERS explain what we're up to tonight, and we'll add some more comments as we go on before the public hearing.
And as you remember, the city passed the new sign ordinance back in July of 2012. When we made that ordinance revision, we indicated that we would look at how the ordinance worked in practice with, like all ordinances, and work with staff and identify issues that could be revised. And what you have in front of you this evening is a draft amendment to the ordinance which ticks off a number of items that staff has identified. Staff actually put this together in May. We've reviewed it. We think it's appropriate for the Planning Commission and City Council to consider. So that's the background of it. We think this ordinance clarifies a number of areas and makes the ordinance easier to administer and enforce.
And some of it includes definitions that have been combined or clarified or is no longer needed, so it really streamlines the document. Just a little housekeeping before we call the public hearing. If you do have your cell phones on, could you please either turn them off or put them on vibrate? Once we open the public hearing and we ask for public comment, we would appreciate everyone who wishes to speak to provide their name and address, and we would like you to limit your comments to 2 minutes. And those following you that have the same comment, could you just give your name and address and say, I agree with that comment, or I would like to support the previous comment. If we have questions during the public comment period, what we would like to do is we will write them down. We won't address questions or issues or suggestions during the public comment so we can keep the process moving along. But when we're done, between our legal representatives, the staff, and the Planning Commission, we will address those. So we will take copious notes so that we can address those. I think we can move on, and we will call the public hearing.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
And if I may, just to help, I think it'll, if I can make a few additional comments.
Sure.
I think it'd be helpful for the public too, that I know that two of the issues that were front and center when we passed the ordinance a year ago, and frankly, when we set this public hearing, was number one, garage sale signs and other off-premise advertising such as the farmer's market or nonprofit type events. And I just wanted to kind of give some context and why those are not carved out, so to speak, of the ordinance. I think it will help alleviate some concerns that folks may have. With respect to garage sale signs, the old ordinance actually, and where people really want to put garage sale signs is in the right of way. So they want to put them next to the stop sign, they want to put them on the light pole or in the median. And the old ordinance actually prohibited that. The new ordinance does as well. I know some people would like to point at my city of Bloomington, where our office is located. Bloomington does allow garage sale signs, but they don't allow them in the right of way. And they even have a depiction of saying they're not allowed on utility poles or on the street or between the sidewalk and the street or within 10 feet of the sidewalk in the medians. They're not allowed on public property, which really is where people want to put them. Next to our office in Bloomington, when I see the garage sale signs that are in the median, I have talked to Bloomington staff about that, and they say where they find the garage sale signs, it's in the public right of way, and they routinely remove them. So Bloomington, for instance, only allows them on private property and with the permission of another person's permission. So, and one of the reasons that Bloomington doesn't allow them in the right of way, I'll just read a blurb from their regulations. It's for a clear view triangle areas. They want to maintain vehicle visibility and prevent accidents. Where otherwise allowed in the setback, no sign taller than 3 feet can be located within a clear view triangle next to driveways and street intersections. And the idea that they have is we want to keep that area clear for traffic safety. So even if you were to allow garage sales, no one does it in the right of way, and I don't think that's so that's where people want to put it. So I think that's why that's not carved out here. And also, your city has, like most cities, has a prohibition on off-premise advertising. Advertising something that you're not, like a business that's, think of it as a billboard or other advertisement for that. And your ordinance prohibits, like many, off-site advertising. And by carving out exceptions, you make it more, or you make it less content neutral. And our goal here is to make the most content neutral, constitutionally sound ordinance that we can. And frankly, carving out exceptions and talking to staff becomes an enforcement issue. And as we all know, the city does have limited resources to address complaints and concerns. So those are the reasons why garage sales, we have looked at that. We don't think it's appropriate to carve that out in the right, put those signs in the right of way. And with off-site, off-premise advertising, I'll just use the farmer's market as an example, that you can't select one message over another message. And that's why we say, in our opinion, that you shouldn't do that. And so we have looked at those issues. We have advised the council we would look at that. We have, and you have what we believe is the most appropriate response to those issues. And with that, I'll stand for other questions that you or others may have.
Thank you. All right, we'll open the public hearing at 6:39. Staff, the affidavit of publication and the general description, maybe summarized just as was mentioned, just some of the tweaks and some of the clarifications.
Yes, the notice to the public was advertised in the Morris County Record on August 18th and the 25th, so we have that here. The summary, and I won't cover everything, we got rid of the definitions that were not used or unused. We did clarify windows, for example. Under the old sign ordinance, it didn't specifically say that you can place advertisements inside your building. That does not count towards your square footage. So we clarified that. The holiday signage will become, will be included with the regular signage for any residential or business. Right now, holiday signage is exempt, and that has been a problem for us. Nameplates, again, what can go on a nameplate was also clarified in here. In our general provisions, We did clarify the A-frame signage, which is allowed in the business district. One is included in your signage square footage. We also clarified the calculation process itself that we use when we calculate the size of a sign. And it did not specifically say, if you have one sign on your building, and you have a message on this side, and you have a message on this side of your sign, what is the square footage of that sign? And in the past, and in other communities, it's 1 square foot, that you don't take this side and this side. So we clarified that in how to calculate the square footage of a sign, just to make it clearer and more enforceable. We also found some mistakes in our residential signage that we clarified, and those were typos, but we did have some clarifications in our residential districts. It's the same square footage, it's the same number of signs, up to 2, but we did have a typo in that little chart. That's a summary of what we're changing.
Very good. Thank you.
I'm Jerry Lochner, by the way. I didn't identify myself. We have to identify ourselves. Sorry.
Sorry. I'll identify myself. My name is Jean Myers, Planning Commission member. And we will now receive comments from the public. And anyone wishing to provide a comment, if they would come up to the podium, and as we mentioned, provide your name and address, and we'd appreciate what you have to say.
Robin Hensel is on? Doesn't sound like it's
Can you
on.
tell me your address too, please?
Yeah, 807 First Street Southeast, but is this supposed to be on or no? Doesn't matter? Okay.
It's not.
I think I talk loud enough so everybody can hear me anyway. I have a question, and that is, why is there a court reporter here? It's never happened before at a planning meeting. That's number one. Maybe Mr. Reuvers can answer that, not on my 2 minutes. And I don't know if I'm going to get another opportunity to speak or ask this question, and it's an important one. What is the exact dollar amount that this lawsuit, because of an infringement on my free speech, has cost this city to date, including the city attorney's fees, extra staff time, Mr. Reuvers' time, any costs incurred? What is the dollar amount? I'd certainly like to know. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to comment on the draft ordinance? Anybody? Comment or?
Madam Chair, do we have to vote?
Well, you know what?
I think they should go
What
up
is the
there.
protocol? Mr. Crowder, would you please come to the podium?
I don't know if it's a good question.
Well, whatever it is, we have 2 minutes, so. Name and address.
I'm Brian Heikenfeld, Crowder, C-R-O-W-D-E-R, 1000 River Drive. Mr. Reuvers, you mentioned in Bloomington that people can have garage sale signs on other people's properties. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is that something that this community could think about doing?
And I'll be happy to, I think what we want to do as a protocol is get any questions you have, and then I can address those.
Oh, I'm sorry.
More no best, as
That was
many
my
as you
question.
can have, and then
I-
we'll address those afterwards so that everybody has a chance to speak.
As alderman at large in this community and having a business that's very hands-on people, I hear this problem. People have a problem with our garage sale issue with signage, and I would really like to resolve that for this community. You also touched on different nonprofit organizations, and I do understand where you're coming from on that. But as far as the garage sale signs, if Bloomington is doing that, I don't know why we couldn't have that part of our ordinance for our signs. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? Anyone else wish to speak? else wish to comment on the draft ordinance? Well, hearing no further comments, we'll close the public hearing at 6:45. Did we have any written correspondence, staff?
No, not that I'm aware of.
None? Okay, or telephone correspondence or anything? Okay, so none that we're aware of. Okay, may I have a motion, we'll have discussion. Or would you care to discuss first?
I'll make a motion to approve draft ordinance number 56 series.
Keith Silvernick, I'll second.
Thank you. Discussion. Anybody wish to comment on the revision? I just want to compliment the staff and whatever assistance was provided in comparing the original with the proposed revisions. It really does clarify the ordinance and certainly has got to make it, or would make it easier for you to administer the ordinance. So, kudos.
I'll pass it on to Douglas. Douglas is the main one who's been interpreting and taking the calls.
Well, and anybody else who's provided help.
The holiday signage would follow suit with square footage in the existing residential, which would make it more compatible.
Right, your holiday signage will be included with the signage that you can have in your yard, but also would apply to residential business or industrial districts. Your signage is controlled by the size of your lot, the front footage in your lot if you're in a residential district. If you're in the business district, it goes by your zoning, B1, B2, B3 accordingly, and in an industrial district. So, the answer is yes, your signage for holiday signage is included with your total signage that's allowable on your parcel, based on the zoning classification that you're in. So in residential districts, it's 8 square feet. Yeah, 8 square feet.
Which would make it a lot easier to monitor versus trying to decide what's a holiday and what isn't, or...
That's correct. And it does not include the reindeer or the snowman or the lights, it's the wording that will
The message.
be
It's a sign.
The sign.
signage.
So my 30-foot rabbits still can go up at Easter?
But I wanted to put Merry Christmas on an old TV tower, and it's 12 feet across, because that's a nice thing to do, get it up there. I'd have to keep
8
it at
square
8
feet.
square feet, okay.
Okay, anything else? Any other comments?
I'm sorry, my name was Frank Goshek, 307 8th Street Northwest, Fort Falls, Minnesota.
Madam Chair, I just would like to respond to some of the questions that would be appropriate.
Before our vote, yes, that'd be great, thank you.
I think Ms. Hensel asked the question of, why is the court reporter here? I asked the court reporter here so that there would be a clear record of the actions by the planning commission and city council tonight. As for the amount of money Ms. Hensel's lawsuit has cost the city, I do not have that number, but it has been a significant amount of money and resources that this has cost the city. So I don't have a number for that. Mr. Crowder inquired about garage sales. I think I touched upon that, but once we start carving out exceptions to what types of off-premise signage versus garage sales are okay, the farmer's market's okay, but other messages aren't, we go down a path of content-based decisions. And it's my recommendation, don't do that, because I think that the argument will be that that becomes you will get an argument, I guarantee you, from the other lawyers that we are going down the path of a content-based ordinance, and I, as your lawyer, recommending that you pass the most constitutionally sound ordinance possible. So that's why it's my recommendation you do not do that. Bloomington's not involved in a lawsuit right now, and they are set up differently than you are. So that's why it's my recommendation that you adopt what's presented in front of you.
Staff, any other comments or? Call for the motion. Ready? The public hearing's been closed, but maybe?
The public hearing has been closed. If you want to recognize someone else, you certainly can do that as the chair.
And she hasn't spoken yet.
I mean,
Uh,
it's you control the meeting as the chair, so.
Charlotte REUVERS, I think it's 709 Northeast 2nd Street. My hearing isn't the best, so I just want something clarified. Jerry, did I understand right that we can't put up Christmas scenes in our yard?
No, you can't.
What did you mean by
Christmas.
the reindeers?
Reindeer are allowed, snowmen are allowed, rabbits are allowed, it's the signage. Noel can only be 8 square feet.
I would like to make a comment about signage on, there was one sign down on the south side of the city that kept running. It was in a window. And I think that's a perfect way you can have a very bad accident. Because people slow up and try to read what it says. And no matter how slow you go, you can't read it because it keeps going.
John, can you tell me your address again, please?
709 2nd Street Northeast.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. If we don't speak up loud enough for the audience to, don't be bashful and let us know if you can't hear us. And for the record, my address is 1207 10th Avenue, Southwest. Thank you. Call for the vote on the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. As this was a single agenda item for this evening, there is no old or new business, no updates. We'll announce the next regular meeting is 6:30, Monday, September 9th, 2013.
Motion adjourned?
I'll second.
Jeremy and Keith, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carried. Thank you, everyone. And thank you for coming to the meeting.
Good day.
There you go. Guess we got a half an hour now.
Okay. Well, you guys have.
for the meetings. Yes, they.
This won't be in your way if I put this here?
Well, I don't know that it matters, even if I do, Jack, does it?
Well, it
I'm in
must.
the people corral and I don't have any say.
It must because I asked.
It must.
Or else I
It
just
appears
put it
that
there.
way.
Do you want me to move it or not? I will.
No, it's actually
Okay.
fine. I'm trying to think of the city. There's a city, I want to say, South Carolina. The city council passed an ordinance that restricts homeless people from staying in downtown. Makes it illegal. So they have a homeless shelter for them in the outskirts of the city, but it only holds about 1/10 of the homeless people. And this came from a veteran of the Iraq War who was concerned about this because so many vets are homeless. And they're gonna position cops right by this shelter. And people who are staying at the shelter can't walk off the grounds of the shelter. Yeah, it's what it is. So the ACLU is looking at this, and some other groups, because it's clear violation of human rights. And I'm thinking that can't run this one. Yeah, actually, this one. I'll stop that. I'll just let that one run, it's got plenty of time. Just don't let me forget to turn it off. Oh, yeah. Send an email. I have to send an email.
I don't have any interest in renting. So
Don't you have a, can you just turn your volume all the way down?
I did,
clarify.
but it didn't apparently make any difference.
So,
Well, there must be a
See,
mute.
it goes to on, no matter what you do. You can take it down to.
Oh, vibrate only.
That's what I had on in my brain.
if you watch
Okay, go back there again to where the volume was. Keep going. Keep going. There. Leave it, now set, push the, okay, I think. I think that's right.
Oh, okay, 'cause
See?
it's got a button on top.
There you go, that's how you do it.
all of a sudden, you see,
So the signs in the downtown units, they're the same as the signs? It's the same as what they have downtown.
I don't know. One of the, I mean, I just.
There's lots of illuminated signs downtown. They're not a concern of yours for traffic accidents. In the downtown area, excessive signs, excessive traffic. There are lights in the window almost identical to mine, but that's not troubling to you? Only mine is.
When it was running tonight, those that just stay there.
They run like that downtown. Oh, take a look. Like the White's got a sign up there. Phelan's got an indoor sign, it was Falls Neck. There's one where, across the street from the Victorville bar. What's the name of that bar? The Falls Bar? No, what's the one that's over, across from Drillick Insurance, what's the name of that bar? No? That's it, Whiskey River. Okay, close to that bar, there's a business that has a sign goes in, it runs and it flashes and it fades and it does all the things that
Maybe if I knew what your sign said, you know, if I know what they say, then I'm not gonna keep trying to see what it says, you know.
Oh, so it matters what it says.
If I can figure out what they're trying to say, is that just correct?
I don't know what to do with the downtime.
I know.
We have a half an hour and I'm sitting here like,
Message is
what do I do with myself here?
flash it.
Well, you never know how long a public hearing will last. Sometimes people have a lot of questions and they go on for a long time. Sometimes they open up and 3 minutes later they're shut down, you know.
Distract the driver, you
Yeah.
know.
Well, you get ready for the idea of winter coming, or?
You know, I would like a nice long, just, you know, mellow leaves. I feel like we had so much winter right into June practically.
Yeah.
Driver's responsibility.
I'm not ready for
I
it.
haven't gotten a summer because I was gone. Didn't rain a drop in Ireland for that whole time, and that hasn't happened in who knows on record, because usually the previous 4 summers have rained every day. And, we didn't see any rain. I came back and I haven't had rain here, and it wasn't raining before I left, so I feel like I need. They said that in Ireland. At first they were happy, but after 4 or 5 days, they're worried about their crops because they don't have a lot of tree cover or anything, and everything's just sitting out there. There's no irrigation.
Yeah, and very rocky soil.
Rocky.
So I need a lot of-
So, yeah, 20-some days of heat like that wasn't a good thing.
And falls and is in.
Yeah, way too many people on that island for what they can grow. So anytime something like this happens, food prices escalate because they have to import. And that's not a good
When I
thing.
go by there, I don't even look at it, you know.
Which farmers are gonna feel this year? Corn crop. They're gonna have to buy feed.
But I think it's just, you know, I didn't see it till you get
For
right there.
farmers, the price of pork is going down, and plus you have to buy your feed. There's not a whole lot of room to make a profit there, so that's gonna affect them. It's a tough place to be a farmer.
I know, I don't know if anyone wants to do it. I get the romantic aspect, you know, you're a
There's a reason I
man,
have that in my.
but it's just too iffy.
I loved it as a kid, but I wasn't responsible for making sure all 10 of us kids were fed. So it was probably more of a burden on my dad versus me. A lot of times I was happy if some of
Has to
the
get her.
crops were burned out, I didn't have to go out and deal with it. You know how kids
I
are.
do, I know exactly, I grew up in a farm
Maybe
too.
you can read faster than I.
Anyway,
Right by the hospital.
I do miss a lot of aspects of it, just,
Right in front of my house, there's umpteen amount of
well, I had an answer to my dad, but it still felt like this was a family thing, and we do what we plan.
Nobody can tell us how to live.
You know, I mean,
Yeah,
when you see things, you're interested.
no one likes to be
But when it's
told,
just
you know, as
maybe
you
my
know,
age and
I
not
don't
as
like people
fast.
telling me what to do all the time, you know.
But it just,
It,
you know, I'm seeing it, boy, I don't know what this is.
I have a-
Sometime I'm afraid there's gonna be a bad
a
accident.
big lot.
because The other people just
Has a
like
lot of
me.
extra room. I feel, why can't I have a little bigger garage? Because I could build 2 homes on my lot, you know, split down. But because it's all owned by me, I still have to abide by the 1,400 square foot rule. I would take 5,000 if I could get away with it, because I like building things. I
Siren going or something.
like to be in my work and working in the shop, and that's how I relax. But I can't. I'm in a too small of a building that I can't do everything I would like to do.
Why can't you? I don't
1,400
understand
square feet is what they have as an ordinance, and that's as big as I can go. I can add 8 feet on my cost and everything. I wouldn't gain anything, you know.
And then so you're.
So it's,
so you-
What, on a farm?
I don't like to.
All new. I could put up a 40 by 120 machine shed, nobody's gonna care. So, you're allowed to. But anyway, I guess I can go back to the farm.
Well, if you didn't want to take the responsibility of farming, just live on the land. Rent out the fields and pasture.
Well, you find so many during the year.
Yeah.
I just keep throwing it in blocks.
There's a lot of good things to say, but then trying to buy 180 acres nowadays, farmland's going for $3,500 minimum an acre. You need a small fortune, you know.
Well, if you weren't going to farm, you could go to a part of the state where the land is a lot cheaper. And it's usually cheaper because it's rocky and thin.
Putchin County, you still can get land if you can guarantee you're gonna live there 10 years and use this as your main. They would still homestead the land, you know, free. But there's just no way to make a living up there. How would you last 10 years? But
Yeah, you'd have to be independently wealthy. Wouldn't you?
beautiful up there too, you know.
I know, I grew up in Hubbard County and I doubt I could afford to live there now.
Hubbard, that's a good county
Yeah.
for birds.
It's good for birds and wildlife, not so good for livestock and crops.
Putchin County would be tough on livestock because there's so much water, the soil's so wet. Infestation mosquitoes, the poor animal would just be stressed just from trying to fight off the horseflies and the mosquitoes and whatever else is crawling around up there. But the fall is nice.
You never called me back about birding. What kind of birding do you do?
Oh, I go out any kind of birding I can get into. I was at the state fair.
What does that mean? You
I go
track
out count
songbirds or what do you do?
any kind of bird, and we
And-
keep numbers. There's a breeding bird survey that just went on, so they can do an accurate count of which birds are actually coming to
They're in the
Minnesota.
car, Grandpa's walking.
So are you with the Audubon Society or are you with the group?
MOU, Minnesota Ornithological Union, is a recognized recording site. You can go online and check it out.
Are you with them?
Yeah, and I've been dealing with them since 2002 maybe. And before that, my birding was very limited. I kind of wasn't getting into it too much. But in recent years, especially after the ivory-billed woodpecker was reported alive again, kind of regenerated my enthusiasm for it. And then when you start seeing species that they thought were going to be extinct and have actually come back, like bald eagle, osprey, trumpeter swans, which are doing really well. You start looking at it, maybe it's a good idea to get involved and get others involved, because that's the only way things will be safe, you know.
So you don't do like other kind of birding like falconry or anything like that?
No, I'm not a hunter anymore.
But you did at one time do that or?
I used to hunt pheasants in my house.
No, but you've never done falconry?
No,
Oh.
I don't know the first thing about it.
Are there people around here that do that?
I mean, once in a while when I go out and I do bird counts, I'll come across like a rare bird, like a prairie falcon. And I have to, before I can report that to MOU, which reports to Audubon, which in turn reports to Cornell University, I have to verify that it was a wild bird versus somebody's own bird. Just because I saw it in the sky doesn't mean that it's a wild bird that's coming. So there's a lot of things you gotta look at. You gotta look for a falcon bird has to have something attached to its leg to identify it, in case if it gets lost. Because they're not gonna do very well in our own out in nature, so you do try to get a hold of somebody to recapture it or lure it back in, because that bird was brought up without any instincts on how to fight off other raptors or anything, so they're pretty vulnerable. But I think it's tough. sometimes birds are hybridized with other birds. I reported a lazuli bunting once that was a real rare bird, and I could not claim it because I could not prove that it wasn't mixed with an indigo bunting, which they have a tendency to do. Just because it looked like one doesn't guarantee it is. So there's so many things. And you can't count whooping cranes because they're an introduced species in Wisconsin and come into Minnesota. The only ones you can is if they come from an actual, there's from like Louisiana or somewhere, and it happens to come through Minnesota, then you can report it and it's counted. But if one comes in from, say, Wisconsin, because they introduced some there, it's a non-count. So, there's some birds that look just like other birds, then you have to verify by the sound, because their sounds are different.
Something I found out just the other day because a friend posted something online. Great blue herons eat small bunnies.
They will.
Yeah.
And if you go to
Like
places,
about this big.
you go
Had
to
it this beak
Oregon,
and ready to swallow it. Yeah, I didn't know
in Oregon, in places where there's no marshes, there's a lot of great blue herons. What do you think they're eating? It's going to be mice. It's going to be
that.
kittens.
Sand cranes eat little things like that,
Yeah,
little creatures.
yeah.
And wild white-tailed deer actually will rob birds' nests and eat baby birds. Yeah.
Red-headed woodpeckers, their main diet is eating insects in the trees. They will grab other things like small mice or whatever. A lot of birds. And then I noticed like the overgrowth population, which mainly, most of them are insects, but in a drought year when there are no insects, they'll start scavenging on other things. You know, anything to survive. But
Of course, by the time when he got older.
yeah, it's
hard to see what it was.
interesting because you see the shifts in nature. I'm not a proponent of wind power because they put them up in areas where the big migratory routes are, where the winds are. And they are clipping off birds like you wouldn't believe. There's a bird that almost went extinct, and it might be extinct now. And it happened because they ran that same route on the East Coast that they have for who knows how many years. Well, they put up a big skyscraper on the way. On a foggy day, they came through and decimated the whole population. They ran into the building. It's like wind power sounds like a good, and it is in some ways, but in other ways it hurts things.
There has to be ways to divert birds though, because for a long time, birds, ducks especially, and geese were getting nailed on power lines, and they developed, the ball system, and now they've got even smaller ball systems. There's ways to divert.
A lot of birds are finding out they migrate according to some kind of sensory sort of magnetic field that's going around the world. They're beginning to come out with studies that cell phones are throwing that all out of whack.
There's light patterns in big cities and stuff that all throws birds off.
Yeah, that's why home pigeon can go back home. They don't just put them some black over and carry them 1,000 miles away and they just remember that. They know, it's like they have a map that only they see. And the more we play with things without realizing it, the more damage we do. And even sometimes we try to fix things, but it's something else that causes a lot of harm.
There was something I was going to talk to you about after, something that you said in the other room when the attorney was here, that if you knew that that one of your constituents was really threatened, you'd be interested in that. I want you to know that I have the Facebook posting that Darwin J. Allard posted. And he has a brother that lives here. His mom is north of town. Elaine is her name. Daryl is his brother. He has many friends in the area. And it wasn't hard to find him, but our police chief couldn't find him. They had a dead investigation. So I want to share that with you because you said you'd be troubled if you knew that anyone in the city was threatened, his comment was this: why not just pull a Gordy? Just shoot her. It worked last time.
It doesn't show a lot of intelligence. Though.
It shows a terroristic threat.
Yeah.
And what is less intelligent is that our police department didn't go anywhere with that terroristic threat. That should concern you also, because if this can happen to me, it could happen to anyone. And when I voiced my concern about how little was done to do any kind of relevant, deep, thorough investigation, that didn't go anywhere either. So I just wanted to mention that to you because you claimed that you would really be interested
No,
if
I
someone
know, and
was.
I have to check right into here. I can't walk away from it.
Well, a good question would be to ask of the chief, how come he didn't thoroughly investigate that? I have the police report. They didn't even identify it.
I will talk.
And all you have to do is make a Facebook search or a Google search, and it's real easy to find.
Makes me look 50 years younger. You kidding?
Probably wasn't even talking. At least that's
Well, I
not.
am really young. I'm only 41.
That's troublesome.
If it wasn't for all that drugs
Think
and
about this, what
God.
if your wife, if someone posted something like that on Facebook,
I would check
About your
into
wife.
it as much as I could.
but what would you do if your police chief did nothing? On your wife's behalf, what would you do?
I wouldn't quit.
What does that mean, you wouldn't quit?
I keep pursuing it until,
With who?
well, any means possible until I expend the energy and move on to something else, or maybe I never will.
You'd go to your council.
I have to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you're not the first council person I've talked to, so.
Yeah.
But I would appreciate if you would question your chief of police, my chief of police, and ask why they have been able to identify this person. And I sure appreciate it. Because that's troubling. And according to what you said in that room, it's troubling to me too. So. And I'd be happy to make a copy of the Facebook post and share that with you.
I don't think I've ever seen it.
No, it was taken down. 11 days after it was posted, and it only got taken down by the Morrison County Record after I pointed it out. But they supposedly had a filter to prevent that kind of stuff from threats being made online. And since then, all of ECM Publishing has changed their mechanism to post online. Isn't that ironic?
You
And in the
know,
month following that,
Facebook is a hard thing for me to follow. There's just way, I can't remember the last time I even went on it.
I'm gonna just come over here and
Whatever.
Find it far too technological.
No,
No, that's too close to
Works
you.
both ways.
Push it away.
this is my camera.
Yeah, but.
This
yeah,
is the
truly-
people gallery.
Okay.
I don't think you have any authority to control anything that goes on here. And you cannot put your hand on my camera.
Okay. Enough said.
Well, I'm glad. Maybe you want to stick your tongue out again.
I can do that.
Oh, that'd be lovely.
Well, I think this is an
That
absolute
would be
ridiculous
lovely.
thing, but you're right, you get to do anything, and that means I can do things.
I get to have my camera wherever I want to. This is the people gallery.
It's so nice to
Why would a
know.
camera trouble you?
It doesn't really.
Oh, I'm glad.
It's just that, I don't know. No, it makes no difference to me whatsoever.
I'm glad.
But if you see my tongue, remember, it's a good tongue.
And I thought, hey, where's all, for this $2,000 or $2,000? Good, how are you?
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. But sometimes, now, wait. Sometimes companies will take that. They don't put the money away. I thought they go back to the money.
I think I'm,
Hi. Kind of. I'm usually here. Well, you know, that's a good observation. That's right. No, I still plan to be here for a while. There's tonight on the menu will be Jerry's resignation. I didn't know what. I thought, you know, I don't know what's up. Enjoy.
Yeah, thank you.
These people are not, it was like, we ran our band. Oh, yeah. You can't do that. I mean, community federal, you all of a sudden, and then
No, there's nothing for the regular council meeting yet. They'll be setting out the agenda when the meeting is ready.
It's great that I'm back there, so what was happening?
so they don't care.
Sometimes one for the town.
That's just my camera again, I might have to have him arrested. Oh, yeah. Try to remove it from here. Yeah, it is.
So we'll see if we have any questions.
Really hot. Yeah, sure. My brother and sister and came out of the city, 5 o'clock, and I went on Thursday, You don't get the rest of the
Yes.
I don't use it. I was just wondering. I use it to wrap up. I don't know. Just because it does good things with money.
I like it. It's better than big bad.
This is Paul Reed.
That's
Well, that's why I've never run for Congress.
Pretending to represent the city of Louisville. Pretending to represent the city. But representation is the insurance court recorder.
I think they have to take some. I think they have to be red. All of those people are out there. That's $100 bill? And
So Saturday morning.
Okay. Yeah, she's got it.
What do we ask that?
Yeah. 17 good enough.
Welcome, this is the regular council meeting of September 3rd, 2013, 7:30. We have a quorum, let's stand and salute, say the pledge to the flag.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we start, I'd ask all individuals to either silence or turn off their cell phone, pagers, or other electronic devices that may disrupt the meeting and refrain from using these devices during the meeting to avoid disrupting proceedings. Approval of the agenda. Approval of the agenda is posted in accordance with the open meeting law and herein placed all agenda items on the table for discussion. What's the wish of the council?
Mr. President, I so move.
Got a motion by Alderman Crowder, second by Mayor VanRisseghem for approval of the agenda. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Approval of the minutes. A copy of the minutes of the special work session meeting of August 19, 2013, and the regular and closed meeting of August 19, 2013 are enclosed. What's the wish of the council?
Mr. President, I so move.
Got a motion by Alderman Crowder, second by Mayor VanRisseghem for approval of the minutes. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Approval of the bills, Mr. Gojek.
Please turn to page 1. Page 2.
I have a question. Lori, under Public Works, Michael Strong for locating power lines for $1,150. Does it normally work? Does it work in Muscle Power?
No, we hired him to locate electrical lines on city-owned property.
So he's an electrician?
I don't know what he is by trade, but he's a locator.
No more on page 2. Turn to page 3.
For Kevin Anderson for the $5,066.25, that was for designing something at the fire department on the west side, or?
Yes, it was. We had Kevin look at whether we would switch the roof from a flat roof to a hip roof, to see if the structure could take it.
And how much was that project? Do you remember offhand?
The total project with integrity is gonna be about 45,000, somewhere in that range.
Thank you.
Quality drinking water fee, water plant, that's how much it usually is.
Yep. That's a quarterly fee that we're required to pay for that.
Quite a bit of money, isn't it? Any more? Do page 4. Page 5. Page 6 is grand total. No further questions. I make a motion to approve checks 86659 through 86722 and 86750 through 86776, totaling $217,781.88. Void out checks 86723 through 86749.
Second. Got a motion by Councilman Gojek, second by Councilman Hanford for approval of the bills. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. We don't have any awards or donations. Consent agenda is application for lawful gambling, Low Falls Relief Association raffle, it's approved. Application for lawful gambling, Friends of Linden Hill raffle, approved. Energy and Environmental Committee notes, August 2013 received. Morrison County Attorney Prosecution Reports, July 2013 received. And Youth Task Force Minutes, July 2013 received. Anybody want to discuss any of those? I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
A motion by Councilman Bozick, second by Mayor REUVERS for the consent agenda. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Now we'll recess to a joint public hearing with EDA. EDA can come up to the front. You're in charge, buddy.
Okay, I'll call the EDA meeting to order. Sorry. We've got all of us coming up. Okay, once again, I'll call the EDA meeting to order. We do have a quorum, and we need to adopt that agenda or wishes.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Public hearing, joint public hearing with City Council regarding business subsidy to Central Minnesota Ethanol Co-op and creation of an economic development district.
And I'm David Drown to talk about that. This is a joint public hearing with the EDA and the City Council. The EDA is here, which suggests that this is a hearing about something having to do with economic development, and that's in fact what it is. The City and EDA are contemplating providing a business subsidy to the Central Minnesota Ethanol Co-op folks, the co-op, if you will. The project is a project to convert a city wastewater pretreatment project into a water recycling conservation project. And the city and the EDA are asked to think about contributing the facility itself, plus about $500,000 with accumulated reserve funds. So this is a public hearing for the public to hear about what we're thinking about doing, providing a business subsidy to the co-op. Now, Little Falls, for a community its size, has a pretty rich history in doing economic development deals. While I was driving up here tonight, I was looking at my calendar. I believe this is my 20th year of working with Little Falls as your financial advisor. And over that time, we've done a lot of business subsidy transactions. It's been a fun community to work in. And thinking about the big deals we've done over time, I believe the biggest economic development transaction the city ever did was 15 years ago when the Central Minnesota Ethanol folks approached the council and EDA at that time about building an ethanol plant in the community. The county was involved as well, and the city worked cooperatively with those folks in a number of ways. The project location was located way out north of town, so the city annexed the property. It was well beyond the boundary of sewer and water systems, so the city built big sewer and water pipes out to serve the ethanol plant. And when the technical folks discovered that the discharge from that plant would likely overtax the ability of our wastewater treatment plant to treat the sewage, the city undertook a $1.6 million project and built a wastewater pretreatment plant to take the effluent from the ethanol plant, clean it up enough that we can handle the rest of the treatment through the treatment plant. So the city made big time investments to help that project get started. Now the ethanol plant at the time did its part. The city built the plant, borrowed money to do it, and the ethanol plant agreed to a special assessment, basically an extra charge that they pay on their taxes each year. Those extra dollars were earmarked to cover the city's bond payments. Ethanol plant faithfully made those payments for 15 years. We faithfully made bond payments for 15 years, and those bonds are all paid off now. The ethanol folks, the co-op, also agreed to cover all of the operating costs of that pretreatment plant. So the city kept a separate set of books for that plant, and whatever it cost to operate it, bill was sent to the co-op, and the co-op paid it. And to my knowledge, they've always been current on their operating cost payments. In addition to that, and significantly, the co-op thought that it might make some sense to do a little planning ahead. And they've actually proposed that in terms of what they would pay in terms of operating costs, they'd actually pay a little bit extra periodically and start to accumulate a reserve fund. So when the plant inevitably wore out or technology changed and needed to be upgraded, there was some money hanging around to handle the future capital needs of that project. And they've been voluntarily basically doing that for many, many years. That reserve fund, Lori helped me out, but I think it totals something in the magnitude of $530,000. So if you look back at the biggest economic development deal that Little Falls ever did, I think like most of them, it's a project that's worked out pretty well. Clearly, the investment the city made in infrastructure north of town was instrumental in several years later being able to provide utility service to some of the township neighborhoods that were having problems with failing septic systems and water things. Had those investments not taken place, I'm not certain those annexations could have happened as easily as they did. And it's been a good thing for the city. You're a larger community and you're a stronger community by the addition of that property to the community. And the ethanol plant continues to be in operation after 15 years and they're still going strong. So it's a deal that certainly fits into the pile of deals that have worked out. Well, the ethanol business has become a challenging business, okay? It's harder than it used to be. And every ethanol plant I know across the state of Minnesota is looking for ways to manage their operations better and to stay profitable. And one of the biggest costs an ethanol plant has is utility costs. They buy a lot of water, they discharge a lot of sewage, and it costs money to buy and treat that. It's one of the major costs that they have. Many plants have looked for ways to operate that side of their business smarter. And quite a few months ago, the co-op approached the city about an interesting project to take a look at the city's wastewater pretreatment plant that was designed and exclusively treats the ethanol plant sewage, to look at converting it so that it actually did its job better, produced cleaner water, clean enough that instead of dumping it down the drain and treating it like sewage, it would actually be clean enough for the ethanol plant to reuse as a part of their processed water, basically turning it into a water recycling plant. What would that do for the ethanol plant? It would certainly reduce their sewer bills, and it would enable them to buy a lot less water. Both of those are cost-saving things that enhance the financial viability of the ethanol plant. And at a staff level, we can see some merit in that. Now, the original approach to the project was for the city to look at converting the facility as a city project. Okay? We operate the wastewater pretreatment plant now, and one of the advantages of that is a year ago we thought we could get state grant money in support of that project. So we applied for the grants, went through the process, and met with a high level of frustration. I think everyone has concluded that that's probably not going to be a successful venture. So everybody took a step back and saying, well, this is a city pretreatment plant that really functions exclusively for the benefit of the ethanol plant. There's really no other productive use for this facility other than to treat the discharge from an ethanol plant. Maybe it makes more sense to consider letting the ethanol folks take over ownership and operation of this thing and get us out of the business, since it's exclusively their plant, and especially since the water is now going to be reused in process. Having them in control of that might make some sense. And I think that's the proposal that's on the table before the EDA and the council tonight. And what we're talking about at the public hearing is for the city to consider turning over ownership of the existing plant to the co-op. And to provide some of the costs associated with converting that plant so that it can recycle water. It's a fairly large project. The proposal would be for the city EDA to contribute about $500,000 of funds toward the cost of that project. Where would those dollars come from? Not the city's general fund or the EDA fund, but from that reserve fund that the ethanol folks trusted us to establish with them a number of years ago to have money hanging around for a future big project, maybe a project like this. So this would be, the subsidy would be to take these dollars that are accumulated, contribute them toward the cost of this project, and basically hand over ownership of the facility as well. Well, now what's in that for the ethanol plant? Obviously, significant savings in utility costs. That's why they proposed it. What's in it for the city and the EDA and the taxpayers of Little Falls? Well, certainly working with the ethanol plant to help them remain a vital business interest in the community has merit. It merit 15 years ago, keeping the jobs and the tax base active and vital in the community is certainly an objective, a positive one. But this project will also have a pretty big impact on the city's sewer business and water business. Since the ethanol plant's the biggest sewer customer we have, and the biggest water customer we have. And this impact's a little two-edged, okay? If this project is successful, they will basically eliminate any significant discharge to the sewer system. They'll be able to recycle almost all of their water. All of it? Almost all of it.
Probably 80%.
Well, a lot of it, okay? That will take them from being our biggest sanitary sewer customer to a normal one. And that's over 10% of our business. Well, from a business standpoint, losing your biggest customer is a negative. There's no question about that. It will have an impact on the sewer business's bottom line. Well, that's not desirable in its own right. Recognizing, though, that if the ethanol plant can't maintain itself as a vital economic development interest, or business interest, and goes out of business, they also stop being our biggest sanitary sewer customer. So would we rather have them stay in operation and not discharge sewage, or go out of operation and not discharge sewage? I think we'd rather have them stay in operation. The water side's a bit more interesting. This will not eliminate all of their water usage. It'll probably cut it roughly in half. And I think they're about 5% of our water business customers, so they're still a significant user. They'll still be probably our largest water user. What makes this interesting has to do with the fact that the city is approaching the point in time where we're out of capacity at our water treatment plant. On a hot August afternoon, we're working like crazy to have the water plant generate enough clean water for people to drink and water their lawns. And if the city continues to grow, and we hope they will, or you will, it will not be very long at all before we're going to need to make a further investment in our water treatment plant to be able to meet the needs of the community. The good news is, it may be caused by growth. The bad news is that's probably an $8 million project to just take the next step forward and treating water. If we can find, one way communities deal with that is they look at water conservation methods. Going on in the cities, hot August afternoons, many communities don't allow sprinkling. That's certainly one solution for the fall. This project actually represents another kind of water conservation project. By working with the ethanol plant to convert this facility to recycle water, they reduce their water consumption, provide some capacity, and let us push down the road, hopefully many years, the need for a water treatment plant, $8 million upgrade. So that's a fairly big incentive for the city to get involved in a project like that. From my perspective, just looking at the numbers, that makes this deal very, very worthwhile, just to avoid having to do a major water project that would financially hit every water user in the city. Being able to postpone that project through a venture like this makes a whole bunch of sense. So, to kind of recap, the proposal would be for the EDA in concert with the city to look at basically giving the plant to the co-op. Now, what's that worth? Well, the plant cost us $1.6 million. But if you look at what it's worth from the standpoint of anybody in the world but the ethanol plant, not much. I mean, no one else can probably find a way to get any productive use out of that asset. Arguably, the building itself is probably a liability to anybody but somebody in the ethanol business right nearby. If we were to go out and try to sell it on a sealed bid, I'm not certain anybody would bid for it. I suspect that its value is probably close to the value of the underlying land. The county thinks the underlying land is worth about 20 grand, so we established the value of the asset. Not at a big number, but at 20 grand. Now, the assistance of cash toward the renovation project, that's cash, okay? And we're talking about $500,000. Okay? So the total business subsidy would be $520,000. $500,000 of reserve funds plus $20,000 as far as the value of the land. Now, state law says when we provide a business subsidy, needs to be value for value. We have to establish goals and objectives of what the city and the EDA want to get out of this deal. Or what do we want to get out of this deal? We want their project to work, okay? We want it to be able to successfully be converted from a treatment plant to a recycling plant so that they don't use as much water, okay? And they'll be required to do this project and it'll be required to be successful. The other thing we want is we want them to be successful in terms of staying in business in Little Falls for a while. And this agreement would require them, in order to get this assistance, they have to stay in business. Each year they stay in business, they earn a portion of this incentive package. And if everything looks good after 5 years, they pretty much fully earn this $520,000 business subsidy. So if they stay in business for 5 years and this thing works, basically it's a grant. Okay? If the project doesn't work, or they go out of the business earlier, they'll be contractually required to pay the assistance back. So we hope they're successful. We want them to be successful. We hope we don't get on the road of them not being successful, but if it doesn't work, state law requires us to require the assistance to come back. So an ultimate, a contract will be crafted by the attorneys that require that. But the essence of the deal is essentially let the ethanol folks take over a wastewater treatment plant that was built for the exclusive service of their plant. Take it over, own it, operate it, convert it, hopefully save money so they can stay in business and continue to earn profits and do good things in the community and help us preserve a little water treatment plant capacity and avoid a big bond issuing project a couple of years down the pike. That's the deal. We might solicit comments from the public.
Thank you. Okay, we'll ask for comments from the public. If you would like to comment, please come up to the podium, state your name and address, and limit your comments to 2 minutes, please. Would anybody like to come to the podium and comment? Second time, anybody like to come to the podium and comment? Third time, anyone like to comment? Okay. If not, public hearing is closed. Okay, next on the agenda for the EDA is resolution. Anybody like to move the resolution forward?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2013-02.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Questions or comments?
Comment is it's a no-brainer. Really is. If you do the homework, it's a no-brainer.
Well, and I think that there's a lot to swallow here, especially for the public, that might not be understandable. But when you look at the history of what's going on here, is basically the ethanol plant has paid for all of this. And there's money in reserve that they paid for. And so, I guess to keep them in operation, I think that this is a good situation for them and for the city and for everybody that works out there. So hopefully we can keep them in operation by helping them with this, move that we're gonna make today, hopefully.
Really, the net effect is we're gonna loan them their own money back. That's really what's going on here. So how do you argue that? You can't. So.
Well, and the jobs that are on the line, like Kathy said, and also the point that we may be losing part of the customer, but if we don't do this, we could lose all of the customer. And that'd be more of a disservice to this community and the taxpayers than any other parties.
Well, and when we're working on business development, whether it's recruitment or, you know, trying to get business in, one of our main goals is to retain what we have. We need to work on retaining the businesses that we have and keeping those jobs. And so this is a part of that process. And I think it's a good process for us.
Further comments? Roll call. Lori, would you call that for us, please?
VanRisseghem,
Yes.
Reinitz,
Yes.
Gerby,
Yes.
Zilka,
Yes.
and Lindberg.
Yes.
Motion carries. I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
So move.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
We call the meeting back to order now. We got a joint public hearing we had with the